one of the packets from
Is
Tim.
it updated?
Is it
Yes.
different from last time?
Yes,
they're
it's
updated. This
different
is
from
an
last
updated
time.
presentation.
Oops, sorry. I'll just pass them around.
So items that we'll need today is, so you've got your packets. If you have your evaluation worksheet, that's this, the front and back. We also have the spreadsheet. So if you guys followed along on your spreadsheet last time, and you have one, you can use that. If you need one, I have an updated one. It's got, you guys all received it in your emails at one point.
Can I have a printed
I-
updated?
Yeah, so we'll take one, and you can put these in, take one and pass it.
That's much easier than my cryptic
You
note.
spoiled us.
I know,
You
sorry.
spoiled us.
I'm trying to find. Yeah.
It's like we forgot our homework.
I can see much better this one.
It's a little larger.
Yeah, I tried to make the font a little bigger this time around.
You
So,
did a good job.
all right, so this meeting, we're gonna continue our project evaluations. If you remember correctly, we didn't quite get through the full slate of projects. We got through most of the private and nonprofit projects and kind of ran short on time once we got to village projects. We did our best, but didn't completely go through them. Then we want to do, just update you guys on the projects. You should have all received that updated information in your emails. So any questions that you had at LPC meeting 4 were relayed to project sponsors, and project sponsors were asked to get back to LaBerge groups so that we could, coordinate on what that updated information was and get that back out to you in a timely manner. That was Friday, generally speaking. Then what we would like to do is, so look at those and just see if any items on our evaluation spreadsheet should be updated in light of that updated information. And then we're going to start identifying which projects are going to be priority projects in the strategic investment plan. There are kind of 2 categories, or 3 categories, I guess, that we're looking at today. We would be looking at priority projects. Those are projects that will receive a full profile in the strategic investment plan. Pipeline projects are identified by the LPC as having potential but may not be quite ready yet. That just indicates to this that those will just be in the list form in the strategic investment plan, and that just indicates to the state that these projects, as they're going through the list for funding opportunities, these are flagged projects for them. And then, hopefully we'll get through this. What we're going to do is I have paper ballots here, but because we are identifying what the slate is at this meeting, I'm going to have an electronic copy up, and we're going to determine which projects are the priority projects in real time once we get to that point. So I'll walk you through it once you get there, but I just wanted to give you guys kind of a high-level overview of what we're trying to accomplish today. And hopefully today will be our last meeting if we can get through all of that. So without further ado, yeah. All right, Ken.
Wrap party.
All right, and so without further ado, Mayor, would you like to recite the preamble?
Well, we've seen it, I think, almost for 5 meetings now, so
Have it memorized?
everyone knows the scoop, that basically if you have a potential conflict, and it's just not you personally, it's a family member, financial interest, etc., please recuse yourself, and that's being discussed, and there are, I guess, recusal forms on that. So.
Okay. Just a reminder about recusals. If anyone has any questions about recusal, please let myself or Stefan know. So just to recap again, we evaluated a number of projects in depth at the last meeting on September 27th. We had some follow-up questions on those. You can see that in the second column. The check marks identify which projects did end up providing some of that updated information. And now we have to evaluate Grove Street, Hoffman Lane, Pioneer Alley, Lakefront Park, Upper Main, Fowler Way, Doubleday Field, and a small projects fund. These are all remaining to be evaluated. The goal, of course, is to select priority projects. They need to lead to transformative impact. Just to keep things simple, the funding amount is less important at this time as we're looking at the projects. The state can choose all or a few priority projects to fund, and not all projects will receive funding through the New York Forward program, but all projects in the SIP, including pipeline projects, will be considered for funding through other programs. We'll just keep that in mind. As we continue through the village evaluations, I'd like to go through them a little bit at a quicker clip. I think we all have a good understanding of what is included in the projects themselves and the project scopes, and what our evaluation worksheets contain at this point. So we'll start with the first project, and you'll notice that the project names are all a bit longer and a bit more descriptive, and that's because we've updated them to match the Department of State guidelines for the strategic investment plan. So, if that throws you off, I understand, but that's why you're seeing it that way. No changes have been made, no updates to the project that is Doubleday Field. So as far as that kind of first slate of questions, we would say that the project is, project readiness is pretty clearly met. The positive benefit criteria, those are also pretty clearly met. It does not include an affordable housing component. Somehow. I don't know how you would do that. In terms of alignment with New York Forward goals, I did add this, and I actually just realized that I did not add a check mark next to, oh no, I did. Attracts businesses and job opportunities. That was the one that I identified. The LPC may also want to check off growth of the tax base. Are there any additions or subtractions to the assessment on the goals that are up on this slide in terms of how this project aligns with Cooperstown goals and how this project aligns with New York Forward goals?
No, and I think we got through most of this part in the last
In terms of the goals?
meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, and so in terms of, I think so that's the important part. An added note was just that we took the public feedback summary from workshop number 2 and the survey that went out. That updated summary did correct for some outliers with IP addresses where many responses from a single computer were removed. So we got those updated numbers, and in general, people who responded that this project would be transformative, that was about 29% of the people who responded. Is there any discussion or consideration by the LPC in terms of where this project might fit into the overall slate?
Are we gonna sort of put them in order on the screen?
I think at this point, let's look at, let's just have a conversation about how this aligns with the kind of evaluation criteria, and if you have any disagreements. And then at the end, we'll look at all the projects together. Okay. All right.
Maybe we can, if everybody has this sheet in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to just look at these for each of these projects? I mean, I think
We did it for the others, yeah.
we did it for all the others. I think we should do it for the village projects. I had the first 2 boxes filled in as the village projects, meeting criteria 1 through 4 under project readiness. And then I think we stopped after discussing column 6. I would say that all of the village projects certainly have anticipated community and economic benefits associated with the projects. Any disagreement there?
The only comment I make, and it may be surprising, is if the goal of increased field amenities, drainage, things like that, is for an overall kind of, let's see if we get college tournaments, things like that, that makes sense. There are so many other hurdles with MLB that go beyond field drainage, that if that is the intent, then it would fall lower to me. If it was gonna come with kind of, we're gonna go for, like I say, college tournaments, things like that, increasing that level of usage, because, sure, well, except for you, not everyone follows this stuff as closely, but, what MLB needs is enormous amounts of territory.
And I think Jeff at one of our prior meetings, correct us if I'm wrong, that we had said that's probably not within the scope of Cooperstown in many ways. That this
Right,
does,
correct.
though, bring it up to a higher caliber of baseball and collegiate sports,
Yeah.
and greater usage of the field. I did note that this was a particularly rainy summer,
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
admit that,
Yeah.
but we have remitted, because we refund. Even if you play up to 4 innings and you get rained out, you get your money back. So that's the policy. So we have remitted
Right.
tens of thousands of dollars to leagues, and particularly in the fall, we run, leagues for about 4 or 5 days straight. So I think, and the only one that I thought was interesting was growth of tax base. Obviously, all village property is tax exempt, but I think you always have to think much the same way the hall does, that for every dollar, spent there's like 99 spent outside for lodging, food, entertainment, all those other gas purchases. And the same is true when we rent to a league for 5 days straight. They're lodging here. It is benefiting the local tax base, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah. So I guess I would just say, like, if the narrative is gonna go further, then we should tweak that MLB part to be.
I don't think it's in there.
Well, it's not on that page, the page before says, bring MLB games to Cooperstown. I would just broaden that.
That was removed at some point.
I thought
Yeah,
that
it
was
was.
removed at some point, I apologize.
It was
That may
removed
have
at some
gotten-
point.
That may have gotten pulled
Okay, that's
in.
why I kept focusing.
But it
Yeah.
snuck back in there. Because we had exactly this conversation.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it
There's
got
other
removed
hurdles.
for public.
Okay.
And to anticipate that if this money is invested in Doubleday, that there's gonna be an MLB game here is not realistic.
Okay, good. All right, that must leave it be.
So just kind of checking the boxes on the rest of these columns. I feel like all of the village projects meet number 8, the community and economic benefits. I feel like number 9 is a yes for all of them, that they all provide amenities that support enhanced downtown living and quality of life. That's what these projects are all about. I don't know that any of them meet the energy efficiency or improve energy efficiency. I think they improve sense of place and a whole bunch of other things. Obviously, none of these projects impact the local property tax base, other than, as Ellen said, maybe creating additional economic activity. Definitely, I believe that all of these support an active downtown with a strong sense of place. Project creates and provides job opportunities. I don't know that you can directly enhance those. I think it's indirect. I struggle with the public spaces for arts and cultural events. I don't know that any of these streetscape projects necessarily support that. I think it's more about sense of place and enhancing community than public arts and cultural
It
events.
improves Doubleday right now.
That, yes.
Cultural advantage.
Yep, that's a good point. So we'll mark Doubleday a yes for that one. And then diversifying the population, I don't know that any of these projects meet that particular criteria. Funding criteria, I don't know, certainly there are alternate funding sources. I don't know that there are any that are more appropriate than New York Forward. Obviously, none of these have the potential to leverage additional private funds. There is some small public match on some of them. Project meets a preferred matching funds for its project type. I think that's true in every case. So I think we can mark all of those yes, other than 17, which I would mark maybe. And then I think all of these projects align with the local plans and goals, the regional plans and goals, and they all had adequate levels of public support at various levels. So I know we ran through that very quickly, but in the interest of staying on time, I don't know if anybody has any comments or thoughts about any of those comments that I have made, or if we have concurrence, agreement.
Concur.
Everybody good? All right.
All right. So, moving on.
Fast enough for you?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. All right, so improve access and circulation on Fowler Way. So we did get some updates. We received an updated schematic you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the slide deck. That concept plans were prepared showing necessary easement, a necessary easement/land purchase area. We got an email from the engineer saying that they were estimating more around $700,000, where the prior had been around 6 something. So we changed the New York Forward request amount and are kind of still waiting on their confirmation of the budget that is consistent with this plan here. So the plan now, it's very similar to the original plan. It's just showing a little bit more clearly what that right-of-way area would look like that needs to be acquired in some way from the property owners to the south.
Do we have any?
North to the below the image.
Do we have a understanding of, if that does not happen, that the project can still go forward in a slightly modified manner?
Is the right of way acquisition of them?
I specifically asked that because obviously there's room for a 6-foot wide sidewalk, which is what is ADA required when there's no tree lawn between the road and the sidewalk. Other places it can be 5 feet, but it has to be 6. So it's just, as you know, that one pinch point at the corner. And I had presented to them, but they really hadn't gotten their engineers to look at the corner of the stadium to see if there was any cantilevering or whatever you would call it to allow the complete sidewalk there. But the paved area is 21 feet wide. So by taking a few feet of the paved road and getting a little under the bleachers, it would be feasible solely on village property, if that's your question.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for this project, we had gone through, I'm looking for it on my sheet because it's different than yours. So for project readiness, this project, I would update that first one to say this project, well, I would defer to you all. Do you feel like this project has a clear path to site control?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so that. And then this project has no regulatory challenges. The project sponsor has the capacity to implement their project. The project has the ability to break ground within 2 years of the award. I think, does anybody have any concerns about that? And then for the positive benefit criteria, it's basically the same. 5, 6, and 8 are yes. Ken, would you like to take it from here?
I think we ran through them for all of these.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what Ken was trying, he was really trying to speed it up.
Oh, wow, okay.
Ken, I can say
I think we should take it one by one.
I think 14 applies to this too. There have been, in the early versions of this, how the stands that would be adjacent to the sidewalk would be decorated and look, there was a potential arts component to it.
Okay.
So I would add that, if that's the direction.
Yeah.
So,
That argument could be made for, I think, for all the streetscape projects.
Good point,
so you had indicated that growth of the tax base though for the last one, so I don't know that this really grows the tax base.
Wait,
Or is that a, number 11?
I had number 9 as yeses for all the village projects.
Okay,
Number 10 is no, number 11 is no, number 12 is yes, number 13 is no, number 14 as yes, maybe, and number 15 as no,
okay,
for all of the village projects.
for all of the village projects, okay.
Yep.
Let me-
And then I had 16 as no, and 17 as no for all of the village projects. And then I had 18 as yes for all of the village projects.
The only thing that I would sort of add or change about that is I agree that probably 14 is no, except for the viewing platform. I think the viewing platform is the only one you can really hold an event, like a cultural event, you know, like education thing.
Yeah,
Whereas I think putting public art isn't really an event, so that would be my only. Right?
Yeah,
That
event
it
versus
sort of
space,
changes
Yep.
Lakefront Park enough that you can.
does anybody have any arguments with that? So that'll be the one that's a solid yes, Lakefront.
You're talking about the one at the end of the lake,
You want to-
Pioneer Street.
Correct.
And what are you doing?
All I'm saying is that that project would enhance public space for cultural events, whether it's on that platform or adjacent to the Lakefront Park. To me, that project is the only one that can say this has a direct impact on arts and cultural activities.
But there are a lot of people that think that we should keep that one area clean and then do, when you go to the other side, to the street, that's where things should go.
Okay,
And
yes, all right, fair enough.
And then I had 19, 20, and 21 as yes for all the village projects.
Just to clarify, I thought you had said yes for tax base, growth of tax base previously, or at least the mayor.
Yeah,
don't-
that's what I wanted to confirm.
I think what the mayor was saying, to me, tax base is actually billable tax bills. I think the idea that these projects support the general economy of the village and therefore support the tax base, I think is true. But I don't-
So
indirectly.
they do.
They do, but not directly. And I think we've evaluated the other projects on whether they directly impact the tax base. Is the village going to be able to issue a higher tax bill next year? Right. That's the way I look
Okay,
at it.
right. I just want to make sure I'm getting it.
Yep.
Okay, so building sidewalks on Grove Street. So again, this is Grove Street, so those are ones across, or yeses across the board for project readiness. You are saying that you are saying that Grove Street would be, the Grove Street sidewalks would be transformative and catalytic?
I think it opens up a whole new area of the village. So.
As transformative as sidewalks can be.
I mean, I understand the premise, but the questions are defeating them. I mean, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if we really can't evaluate a project honestly, then this is sort of just an exercise.
Good.
And I don't, and if we're not ranking them, I mean, so I think that it's worth being honest about it, or we
Yeah.
don't.
Do we get to rank them? Because there's some of these projects that I think that if they got funded over other projects, we'd all be disappointed. You know, I think we have a clear like slate of projects that we would really like to see funded, and other ones that we don't have an issue with, but there's definitely other projects that we would prioritize over that. And I don't know if there's at some point in time where we get to prioritize a list to the state.
Wait.
No,
No.
but the asterisk is that I'm supposed to have an understanding of, you know, how the community feels about certain projects.
Right.
And I can relay that
And I-
during the evaluation at the state level.
and I-
So, and I think I have a, you know, I paid attention to everything. I have an idea, So I know that there's certain things that are probably, somewhat higher priority and some things that are less of a priority for to be a backup, generally speaking, but that gets all meshed into, the rest of the state evaluation about feasibility.
So to further build on Carolyn's point, so if all the village projects have the same ranking number, then we're gonna depend on, like, when you add these up.
For example, one of the problems with it is the village projects could all make the final slate, but multiple of them have outstanding grants that could come in and change that conversation, right?
Right.
So you might say that one village project is a priority and it gets alternate funding and, becomes much more viable, or something like that. So it's sort of a moving target. But I have I know sort of what the general feel is about stuff, and you can certainly relay that to me at any point you feel.
Do we ever take projects out of the running, since we can't rank them? Like, is that something we do, or do we just put a huge slate?
When you put the slate forward, at the end of today, you should be happy with all the projects if they get funded. If you would not be happy with the project being funded, or you don't think it warrants anywhere close to the investment that some of the other ones would, it shouldn't be on the slate either at all, or maybe if it's, you have concerns about it, but it still would be very nice, then it could be a pipeline project which elevates it further. State capital.
I know there was discussion, and I think it might be good for the board to hear, that we're not thinking just about 4.5 million. When we propose either pipeline projects or priority projects on a list, we're just putting together a list. We don't make the decision here on this level. It's above our pay grade, I guess, and it goes to the state. So they would be hoping to be looking at a little over 8 million in projects, and from which they will choose. But as has been noted, the pipeline really is like a gold star, and if they go for any other funding, it elevates them for that funding, that other funding. Is that good?
Yes, well done. I would add that, relevant to this discussion, we have to be somewhat harsh, maybe isn't the right word, but there are projects to cut from the priority slate. We have to do that. So, at some point tonight, we have about 12 million left remaining, or 11.
We actually, so the total projects right now, given the changes that have been made to some village projects, is 9.9.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we essentially have to cut roughly $2 million worth of requested projects, either completely or as putting them into the strategic investment plan as a pipeline project, so they will not be included in the final slate. Because our target is really 8 million. Which obviously some of the projects are bigger than others, and that might be relatively easy to get to 2, that might be 2 projects, or it might be 4 projects.
So, yes, I would love to jump to the projects that we know had significant informational changes from the last meeting where questions were asked, and kind of go over those. So I don't know if that's
That's
what we're doing?
Yeah, well, it's part of this, yeah. The first section is to go over the projects that we have not gone over yet.
Okay.
And then the second section is just to revisit the projects that we already went over but received updated information.
Okay.
So for Grove Street, I think Caroline still kind of has the floor here.
No, I mean, that's fine, I understand that sidewalks on Grove Street or signage in the upper part does things for that area that are inherently incomparable to some of the large catalytic things. So, I'm not gonna argue how we really rank them, I just, was a point more that sidewalks, in my humble opinion, are not catalytic to the transformation of Main Street. But I know they're important to Railroad Avenue and other businesses, so I recognize that you can't compare them, that's really, I think that's my statement.
Okay.
Keep in mind, this whole exercise is just a guiding, it gives some sense of understanding to how the projects relate to each other. But obviously, all of these are yes or no, and some of these questions are more important than other ones, so it doesn't capture the real picture of the projects. It just gives some kind of grounding evaluation process. It's still sort of up to the LPC to think critically about how the projects relate to each other, particularly that question of transformative, because they're not all the same level of transformative.
Okay, so redesigning and improving the pedestrian conditions on Hoffman Lane. So the only change about, with this one was that the village, changed its New York Forward request to reflect, the GIGP grant having been granted, which it has not yet, but, just reducing that, the grant request from 1.4 million to 568,964. No other real updates other than the public, 51% of the public felt that this project would be transformative for the village New York Forward area. Ken, how would you like to move through this one?
I think we can just, if I may provide a recommendation. This one has been, different information from the last time we spoke, and if anyone feels that that impacts what Ken just did in the evaluation, because that was prior to knowing this information, then we can mention it. This one is just the request amount, so I don't think it necessarily, impacts. Of course, the lower request amount does make it more competitive, I suppose, but other than that, I don't think it impacts the evaluation process. But that's how I recommend things.
Okay. All right. So construct the lakefront park viewing platform. The same adjustment was made to consider the CFA grant. So we're now looking at 240,522 as opposed to the proposed 465,000. No other changes really have been made, just added the alignment with New York Forward goals and whether 35% of the public felt that this project would be transformative. Any differing opinions?
What type of zoning variance would be required?
There is I believe it's like a waterfront overlay that would prevent the development, so variance would be needed from that.
About state permits.
State, they would need a DEC permit for wetland disturbance. And a floodplain development permit.
Plus over waterway.
Right,
State level.
yeah, so that would all be with DEC.
It's cantilever, it doesn't go into the water. Cantilever, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, it may still shade, but DEC would deal with all of that. It would be probably a joint permit. Improving the pedestrian conditions on Pioneer Alley, no changes, except to note that 92% of the population felt that this, or 92% of the survey and public outreach respondents, felt that this would be transformative. Wayfinding along Upper Main Street. This was just my own error. The village has committed 2,800 in-kind funds for the installation of the wayfinding signage, so I just fixed the numbers there. This project received a 39% of the public feedback in favor of it being transformative. So were there anything that the LPC wanted to discuss about any of these projects? How they might vary from each other in their impact? Okay, so for project updates. So for the Metro Cleaners project, there were a number of questions that committee had in terms of whether they could meet the match, detailed cost estimates, and so forth, but we did not hear back from the project sponsor. So the question for this committee, because this project was initially kind of in that gray area between the small project, is it really a small project? Is it really competitive as a strategic investment, a priority project? And so I would defer to the LPC, given that we have not received any updates, whether this project should just, go for a small project fund when that becomes available, or whether you'd like to see it incorporated in the SIP, either as a priority or a pipeline project.
Based on the simple fact that we don't have a match, we just take it off the list, and they can apply for small projects.
Does
The
anyone?
match, the originally demonstrated match is enough for the small project fund, so they would just be
For
sort
small
of shoehorned into that
Yeah.
justification for the small project fund. Essentially, but you're right, we don't have information that they are going to meet the eligibility for the priority project.
Does anyone on the LPC disagree with that statement? Or with Josh's
The only
statement?
thing that would maybe change how we look at it is, seems to me there's at least consensus that anything that develops long-term housing, even if it's one apartment,
Mhm.
is important. Housing is important. So whether that by definition moves it into a different category, or the match is what dictates, I don't know. But the things that end up saying, like, there's an apartment, or there's 5 apartments, or there's 30 apartments, those tend to grab my interest.
Yeah, I agree, if we're looking at housing downtown, that meets the criteria.
So not being eligible at this point for a inclusion as a priority project, the only other alternative is to have it be a pipeline project that the plan mentions as an interest to the community, which doesn't preclude them from applying for the small project fund in the future, certainly, but it does if the project sponsor wants to pursue other state funding in the future, it elevates them. But as of now, it's not an eligible priority project.
Because of the match.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would sort of follow up, if it went into a small project fund at that size with only $300,000 to grant, I don't think it's competitive there either. So I'm in favor if you can't identify the proper match.
I would concur.
Wait, so they would be eligible to go for small
I
project,
think,
but,
yes,
yeah.
they would be eligible to go for a small project, but since the match is not, I think it's too much of an ask, in my opinion. I'm not on the small project committee, but I'm just sort of forecasting.
They would probably have to ask for less.
They'd have to ask for less anyway. I
Then
think, in that
195
project.
is what you're saying.
So if we're gonna have to ask for less anyway in a small project, it would be, could they get to that anyway in this grant
Right, by elevating.
by elevating the match?
That extra money's gonna have to come
It's
somewhere.
gonna come from somewhere.
Was there discussion at one point that there was any possibility that that 300,000, if there was recognized local need and a lot of projects could be increased at all?
Maybe for next year's communities.
Oh, that's not nice.
Okay.
So hearing the comments about
Unfortunately, no,
housing being
because-
important, one of the things we've spent a lot of time talking about, I guess, is everybody agreed that we could list this project as a pipeline project, which would make it more attractive for future funding and also not preclude them from applying through the small project fund if they decided to do so. So does that,
That's the yeah, solution.
okay.
Okay, so developing the Pioneer Valley Microbrewery. So this project was significantly updated. The New York Forward funding request was reduced. The total project cost was supported by a more detailed budget. A small tasting room is proposed for the addition for a portion of the building. The window and door estimates were provided and some details on what type of window, like a kind of garage door, storefront type looking window would be kind of what is facing Pioneer Alley. An operational narrative was provided to you all, as were details on personnel, hoping that you reviewed all of that. And so in terms of the continued assessment on this project, I did touch base with the zoning enforcement officer who did indicate that this would, even with a tasting room, this would still be considered like manufacturing. So right now it would require a use variance or a zoning amendment in terms of regulatory considerations. Some of the professional estimates have been provided, and then a detailed budget was provided. Some financial statements were provided as well, and that seems to support that the project sponsor does have the financial capability of completing this project. The ability to meet the match has been confirmed, and there are other grants out there that I've added to most of these as well. And then as far as the public feedback, 73% feel that this project could be transformative of those who responded. So in terms of whether this impacts our considerations on this project, how is the LPC feeling?
I think that the zoning amendment / use variance is a huge roadblock. Maybe not if we had 3 years, but we're talking about shoveling ground quickly on these projects. I just think there's a lot to be done there. I don't know if one of the folks who's been more involved with village zoning can speak to whether the ZBA has ever actually issued a use variance.
That's not in recent years.
So that to me, like, I love the microbrewery as much as the next guy, but that to me makes this, I think it'd be okay to include it as a pipeline project and allow them to kind of work through those issues. But I don't know how we could put it forward as a priority project with that kind of roadblock in the way.
Thoughts, concurrences?
I would just say from a funding point of view, there are county programs, Otsego now has a loan program, Cedar County Development Corp has a loan program that is very suitable for things like this, like beyond the state, and that could also be much more educated than me. There are lots of things within the county that are available for something like this, or that would fit, so there's more outside sources that are possible.
All right, so it sounds like we may be considering this as a pipeline.
Well, how does the committee feel about that? Moving this to pipeline project status?
For that, yeah.
Any disagreement?
No, I agree.
All right, we can put a pin in that. So updates to Willowbrook, and do we need to do a recusal here?
Yes, but I just wanted to quickly ask Nicole, are you keeping a running tally of the amount that has been removed from the ask?
That's on the spreadsheet.
It's on our spreadsheet, yeah, we'll sort it.
It'll be easy to do later, I'm just, okay, go ahead. Yeah, so we have a recusal.
Yeah.
Josh, you don't have to leave, you can just say why you're recusing.
Just don't speak.
Just say why you're recusing.
I'm involved / own the project.
High level of income.
All right, so the funding request was reduced to 1.3 million. The historic building on site will be preserved and incorporated into the townhouse design, as you can see from this image here. The New York Forward request was reduced and renderings were updated. So you can remove the 2B, the rendering is there. any updates in perspective on this project, given the changes in kind of regulatory hurdles, I think predominantly.
There were 2 houses, right?
There are 2 houses.
And one of them incorporated?
One of them is
And
incorporated.
the other one's in the hurdle? Is it still a demo?
The other structure that would be, there'd be a request to demolish
Okay.
is not a listed property.
Got it, okay.
It was put out in 1960.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so,
I think, well, I don't know, it may be worth, as we're going through them, if
Getting a
people want to
sense.
have a discussion, we can sort of keep a running tally of where the projects stand as we
Yeah.
go. And
Mhm.
may, end up being easier later, because we've already talked about it. Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
We're here right now, we've got the information fresh, we don't have to revisit it later. So, Mayor and Ken, if you want to have that discussion of sort of where this, as we go, where the project stands, in terms of priority cut, pipeline, or.
I would say the updates to this project, including the historically listed structure, make this a priority project for me. It hits the housing marks. Yeah, I'm excited about this one.
So is it now 14 units because of the addition of the townhouse, or the townhouse just is a design change from?
it's a design change.
It's more the incorporation,
Oh,
so
it's still
they're,
13. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a ton.
I guess I'd put this forward as a priority project.
Yeah. Definitely.
If we want to go with nods or hand up, if everybody agrees with that, so that they can record that.
Cindy, would there be any feedback on incorporating the historic house in a non-historic building?
I think it'll be a point of discussion, but I think, probably at the local level, it will be viewed as a good compromise. And I think at the state level, again, I can't speak for the state, and even the local level as well as I.
So are we feeling, okay, so I saw head nods on this side of the room. Head nods, you nod.
I can't.
And what's happening here?
Priority.
Yes, okay. All right. All right, rehabilitate 134 Main Street for residential apartments. So, project updates, the project sponsors indicated that they will apply for HCR low-income housing tax credits. So there's some affordability built in. Maybe. There's interest. Decarbonization was confirmed. They are going to be seeking an Energy Star rating of 90% or better, but this project is actually not required to do that. This would be a voluntary measure. Floor plan sketches have been provided, and we're working on updating those in AutoCAD right now. And so those are basically the updates on this project. Any thoughts? Are we feeling like this could be a priority or a pipeline? Or removed?
I think it's a priority, but it's a numbers game, it's certainly less than 13. So
All we need to know is what's on the slate. It doesn't
On the
have to be in
slate.
any kind of
I
order,
think it
just
needs to be on this.
priority up to 8 million.
Yes.
I think we keep it as priority.
Yep.
And then maybe at the end today, I'm assuming that we need to look at our list.
We'll look
of
at the
priority
list,
projects.
exactly.
Yes,
Yep.
we're gonna have to revisit it depending how.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
The budget cuts.
Yeah, we'll do-
With $9.5 million.
Okay, so I'm confident that we got yeses on that one.
Yeah.
Construct the railroad in residential units. So that's the expansion. Project updates, again, affordable housing, HCR, low-income housing tax credit will be applied for. Decarbonization, they will be seeking an Energy Star rating of 90% or better. Building renderings are prepared, and as seen in this cute little rendering here. So, feedback, thoughts, continued assessment.
I think it's a priority, particularly as we see the growth of Railroad Avenue as a commercial area, the stores opening, barber shops opening, having long, year-round residents there. Helps a different pocket of economic development.
Yes, okay.
Although there's a giant skeleton there now, I think.
Yes, I tried to take some before pictures, so I was like, oh, we're gonna have to Photoshop that guy out.
I'm concerned about what
Yeah, some weird juju happening over there. Patsy, how do you feel about priority or pipeline? Priority? Okay. Yes, okay, great. All right, renovate 103 Main Street for residential apartments.
Yes.
Project updates, they will also apply for affordable housing tax credits on this project, and decarbonization's seeking Energy Star rating of 90% or better. All right, I think we've landed on that one, yes.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What are the, I noticed on the last two projects, what are those affordable housing tax credits? What is
It's
that?
9%, I think you could probably
Yeah,
explain
like a
better.
9% tax credit.
That's
On
on
your
the
tax
tax they
bill.
pay and not on the loss of local tax revenue.
Right.
So that's meaningful to the village.
What is the affordable piece?
Yeah. What
It
qualifies?
depends, there's different levels.
It's different levels of where they would land for the affordability piece.
I screened the projects with, all of the housing projects with HCR. And the one that they felt was most likely to get the low-income tax credits was this one, just because it essentially has the most units, and they're, I don't want to speak for HCR, but you're more likely to achieve the affordable housing tax credits the bigger the.
Do you remember how many areas there are for?
There's no specifics yet. So if the project sponsor is willing to explore that financing option, I think for the purposes of the LPC, right now, they should consider that there's an interest there. It's far from a done deal. He hasn't set that financing up to my knowledge, so it's a maybe. And I know that obviously having an affordability component to any of the housing projects was important at different stages in this discussion. So it's a potential right now in this project that ends up being part of the financial stack of the project.
Were you asking about the number of units?
Yeah.
In this,
Yeah.
21, I believe, is the
Is
number of
it
units.
21?
It's 20.
21 units.
All right, thank you.
And so I don't know how many would be of that number would be.
Right, there'd be a proportion
Likely
of
wouldn't
that.
be all, for instance.
It's not like the new Ford bill at Oliana. I think I just saw the rates go up for that, and that's actual affordable housing. The rates are published and locked in. I didn't know if this was something like that.
No, it's,
My understanding is if they do get the tax credit, they would be locked into a certain
Yes.
percentage.
Yeah.
So yes. It would be
we just don't know right
It's
now what
like,
that is.
80% of AMI, or
Right.
110% of AMI for, let's say, 6 of the apartments, or something like that.
Right.
Okay, so let's just nods. Jeff?
Yeah, I would definitely.
Yes, okay, great. All right, expand the Wood Bat Factory Entertainment Center. So this has not changed, no project updates. The red is left over from the last meeting. I know the LPC had some questions about the elevations, and the economic impacts. I believe that the zoning amendment, under regulatory considerations, the zoning amendment has been adopted, or is close to being, it has been adopted.
It did, yeah.
So this would be, as far as uses are concerned, it would be a permitted use at this time. How are people feeling about this project?
not a priority. Pipeline if we
No, okay.
So you're suggesting we make this a pipeline
I
project?
was gonna say,
Rather than
I'm saying
priority.
if we keep it on the list at all, we would only keep it as a pipeline. I'm not even
Okay.
saying we have to keep it as a pipeline, but I'm just saying not a priority project.
I agree.
I could see it as a pipeline.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Yeah? Okay, okay.
So, does everybody concur that that is a?
I just got a lot of nods, yeah.
Pipeline project, any disagreement? Or further discussion?
I mean, I'm not sure about it in general, but moving it to pipeline, we need to do it.
Well, you don't have to move it to, I mean,
No, I know.
What's the downside to moving it to pipeline? Is it,
as opposed to removing it completely. I mean, you're in, the pipe, having it be a pipeline project as opposed to not mentioned in the strategic plan at all. You're increasing the likelihood that if the owner wants to pursue the project, you're just increasing the likelihood that it happens because they're more eligible, or they're looked favorably upon for other state grants. So essentially, it will be included in the strategic investment plan if it's a pipeline project as the concept. Much of it could change by the time something gets, the architecture could change. It's just that the idea of, doing a different structure here that's an expansion of the current use is the community would appreciate it happening, so therefore it's a pipeline project.
That makes sense to me. I mean, any enhancement of the businesses in Doubleday makes sense, whether it looks like this or is exactly this is different.
Whereas the priority projects, when they move forward, things can change about them, but generally,
They're moving.
it's what it is, right?
Okay, got it, okay. Well, in that case, I would move it into the pipeline.
Okay. Yep, all right. Create a community art space at 53 Pioneer Street. Updates. The match was updated to reflect the 10% preferred match by the village. Decarbonization is not required, but there are some energy efficiency elements. Proposed LED lighting that will be on efficient timers. Electric heat pumps, improved installation, and historically accurate storm windows to also improve insulation. We went into a lot more detail on financing and funding for this project. The organization has an endowment, they have a building fund, they've hired a professional fundraiser to replace any monies removed. They've updated their project cost. The match, I apologize, that needs to be updated. The match has been updated. And they are interested in pursuing a NICA grant. NISCA, so that is also on the table. So, feelings about this project?
Definitely a priority.
Priority.
Any dissension?
All right, so, wow, we did it, guys. Got here.
That was all of them? Okay.
We've gone through all the projects.
We have not,
No, we haven't.
we need to go back to the village projects.
Oh, you want to go
and-
back through the village?
Well, we haven't discussed the village in terms of
Priority.
public projects in terms of priority.
Would that be, okay, that's fine. I was just thinking of pulling up the spreadsheet because we have the money. All right, so we'll go back then. What?
Yeah.
We're starting.
Okay, so as far as priority or pipeline, Doubleday Field.
All improvements to Doubleday Field are a priority in terms of its future growth. But that could be.
Carl, and I sort of also agree with that, because we've all learned what happens with deferred maintenance, and if you continue to ignore things that need to have an opportunity to get enhanced, then you never get around to doing anything else.
I don't know if I'm alone in this one or not. I like this one, but I like Alley Lane, Hoffman Lane, and Pioneer Alley better. I don't know what the likelihood that they all four get funded.
Well,
So,
just by the numbers.
I mean, just by the numbers, I don't think it'll happen, and so, you know, I don't feel strongly, and so feel free to change my mind or overrule that or whatever. Like, I like this project, I think it needs to be done, it's positive and no negatives. I just, when I look at some of those other projects, it's like, Pioneer Alley would be awesome to get done.
So is it worth, like, I don't know that anybody's disagreeing with Doubleday Field, like, if we leave that as priority for now, go through the others and then look and see where we are, because at the end of the day, we need to get down to, we need to get down to 8 million, and maybe that's where the hard discussion then comes.
Yeah.
That's
I
where we
agree
start
with
to
that.
prioritize
That's
it.
perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's see what our slate is before.
So let's leave that as a priority for right now.
Okay, so Fowler Way,
Priority.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, priority.
Okay. Does anyone disagree that Fowler Way is a priority? Okay. Grove Street.
I think this one is priority, given that we made the Willow Brook development a priority. And I think they're, improving that neighborhood is connected, right? And whether there's some public-private partnership between the village and the developer to get this done, I think everybody wins.
It's integral to the other.
This quote though includes the entire Grove Street.
Okay, so it runs to the development.
It runs to the development.
Because the picture here, there's obviously a gap in the pedestrian network, but Grove Street itself does not have a complete sidewalk
Right,
build out.
right.
Essentially, probably 10% of the street currently has a sidewalk. I just drove down over here. So, but that's not included in the 300, or it is.
It is included in the.
So that would solve that problem, in addition to the.
This kind of intersection
There,
situation,
correct.
right. This is,
What side of Grove Street is it?
Well, it's for pedestrians.
This-
Other
because,
side
yeah,
is the sidewalk.
it's got-
So, I mean, we even talk about the eventual maybe development of where it all began, that too, right? So sidewalks here would be,
but I believe that the proposal was only for one side of the street on Grove.
It is, it's for the side on which,
The Willow
The
Brook
Willow
project.
The Bassett side, you're probably more likely to get easements and all that.
right,
The west side.
so, I mean, if you have.
Okay, so for now, are we calling this a priority for now?
Yes.
Hoffman Lane,
Yes.
Yes.
we're looking at, yeah, that reduced number. Okay.
I
Lake,
have a question about Hoffman Lane.
yes,
Does that include across the street, or is across the street in the park a separate project?
it's part of it because the only way to handle the stormwater runoff is to move it across to that area where it can go into, you know, retainage basins
Could you do the
and
park
green.
enhancements without the lane?
Excuse
So you
me?
have the right part of the Hoffman Lane idea was that you're moving that parking area so you have better, clear-eye view of the lake. So I'm wondering if this was either funded at a lower, I'm not asking to change it, but I'm just wondering if the park piece of this project could get done without the lane getting done.
The park
No,
piece
because
is a
really
result of
it
the
would-
lane.
Yeah, before you build up and have a nice walkway, you'd put in all your sub-ground infrastructure to deal with the stormwater.
It also has to, I mean, there's a qualitative aspect to it too, which is that the project on its own has to, at least, make this the state for funding, it has to be transformative. And I think this one, having the lane included in it, elevates it to that status.
Yes, I was just curious in
Yeah.
general. If it was just,
I mean, if it
I like
doesn't
the
get
park,
funded.
and I like the park idea a lot.
It's also significantly improving that cross,
I like the
that
lane too.
intersection.
What's your problem?
Stumble and fall on your way to Stagecoach.
Okay, any dissent on this being a pipeline for now?
Oh, priority.
Priority.
Priority, I apologize, thank you. Construct lakefront park viewing platform.
I have a problem with part of it, because everybody in the street where I live does not want that to happen right there. Once you go over to the park, that's fine. It's just where people go down and they see the lake and they see the flowers there, they don't want to see anything else.
Okay.
So they feel very definite about it. And that's the whole place.
I will say that this is the only project where people have stopped me and not been in favor of it. And this is not necessarily even people on Pioneer Street, it's just other people in the village who have, yeah, so.
If you went down there today and looked at it, it wouldn't be over the water.
Would not be over the water,
Lake's low enough that it's just
because
stone
it's
and
low.
mud.
I guess I would agree with your statements about feedback on this one. And I guess my recommendation would be either to move this to a pipeline project for future consideration and let the community work through it. Because obviously people feel strongly about it. So I guess my suggestion would be to leave this one as a pipeline project rather than a priority project.
And the way I see a lot of the public projects, there's a year-round resident theme to many of them. Access on Fowler Way, Grove Street improvement, Coffin Lane improvement, Pioneer Alley. Those are really year-round residential.
They're geared
upgrades.
towards the, right.
I would say improving the field at Doubleday has an economic force, but it doesn't necessarily affect the quality of life of the year-round resident. And I would say this is more like that type of product. So if we're talking about increasing housing for year-round residents, what are the things that these new and all of us current year-round residents really will see as an enhancement to our daily life? And that's how I've been kind of sorting through the public projects.
It's a great way to look at it.
All right.
So is there agreement that this would be pipeline and not priority?
Yeah. I think focusing on the redevelopment of spaces is more important than making another space and we have other areas
And that would also, moving into pipeline also allows village community to alter plans or whatever moving forward, right?
Right.
So find some more consensus.
All right, so Pioneer Alley,
Priority.
priority. Any questions? Okay. Wayfinding along Upper Main Strery.
Well, as Ken said, now it's integral to Willowbrook and
Yeah.
sidewalks, now they all come together.
Yes, it all comes together, right. Okay,
Do you think that is a way this, as the state looks at a whole slate, will they look at it that way too, or is that part of your interpretation as you provide some narrative?
You all are right to consider those things because one of the, assessments is synergy. So if certain projects have synergy, it certainly, elevates them as a group. So
Okay.
not be all, but it's definitely considered.
Yeah. Because they do.
Because it's a multiplier effect, right?
Yeah, they become vitally important. If
Right.
all of a sudden we say 13 units on Grove Street are important because it adds to year-round residents who enjoy the walkability of the village, and that gets approved, and there are no sidewalks. And that undermines the.
Well, and the village, not to speak for.
So,
All
I
right.
just wanted to say that.
okay. So that's a priority at the moment, all right. All right, so that's the slate. Or that's the presentation. So now the trick is, let's take a look at the ask.
The
And
totals over here, I didn't have that spreadsheet.
yeah, you have the other spreadsheet that we can't
So
share,
the-
but yeah.
Total right now is 7.8.
Now we need to add 200,000. Go back.
So,
All right,
cut from the original list, setting aside pipeline project or not. The Metro Cleaners.
Yep.
Project, the Pioneer
yep,
Brewery,
wood
the
bat,
Lakeview, and the Wood Bat.
yep,
Am I missing anything?
There's, 4.
There were 4?
What was your
and the
name
Metro
for it?
Cleaners.
You just said-
So Lakefront, Wood Bat, Pioneer, Valley Microbrewery.
and yeah, Metro Cleaners, which was not included in the total because
Right.
we hadn't received the
Okay,
information.
right.
But could it be, like, is that still in flux, where if now we have a 200 grand?
What's
Listen, 8 is
what are you
what
looking
I,
for as far as information?
From Metro Cleaners?
Yeah.
We need to know that they can meet their, the match requirement. And we need to know, we need to understand the budget better. There wasn't really a clear, like, where did the budget come from? I didn't have any cost estimates from any professionals, or anything like
So
that,
it's
which we've
possible.
typically asked for every other priority project that you guys have.
8 is me being soft. Okay?
We don't necessarily have to have-
7.8,
We're good.
well, you're good, but you're good, number-wise, but you should also look at the list,
Right.
and reconfirm it and make sure that the more you submit to the state, now, it's a game because you need to have backups, right? In case, one of the $1.3 million goes under, doesn't happen, you want projects to fall back, which happens a lot. So you want backup projects and a healthy amount. But by the same token, sort of the more you submit, the less control you have, because you're submitting them all to the state. And so you have to think about that too. So I would revisit the list and just confirm that it makes sense and that you're happy with all the projects being funded, because they're gonna go in with not 100% equal footing, because I have some, context, but in the eyes of the state, they could all be funded. So, no, they could, any one of them could be funded.
So I don't feel at this point, and I would welcome other comment on this, I don't feel at this point that we moved any projects out of the priority slate in order to meet a number. I believe that we moved them out of the priority slate because there were concerns about project readiness, community support, there were other issues, which to me, the fact that we ended up at a number close to what our goal was, not having to, like, is is a really good place to be.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
and I don't know that I would try and add any of the projects that we have talked about being pipelined back into this to raise the number, because I do think there was legitimate concerns on them, which caused us to move them in the first place.
But let me add this, if Metro Cleaners was told there's a possibility here, but you really need to let us know by Monday, this information, then that gives one last chance to provide that information. If he doesn't, then it can be thrown, but there's still a possibility that that information, no, done?
Because we're both,
What's the issue is
I mean, I
that,
don't think any of us wanna.
that nobody's proved that he can raise $75,000?
Well, the Metro Cleaners, again, as we've discussed it, currently it will be in the plan as a pipeline project. So they can pursue other funding and be, more likely to get it.
Okay.
They can also apply for the small project fund, as we mentioned. They might not be able to apply for $200,000 from the small project fund, but they can certainly get funding for their project from the small project fund at a later date, in addition to being elevated for other state funds. So it's not like they're high and dry necessarily.
From what I understand, we instituted a match and you asked them,
Right now, they are not an eligible project anyway, because they did not
but
provide the
they've
information.
been asked, right?
Yeah.
After our last meeting a month ago, you
Yes.
requested that information. Did you get any response or just no response?
I sent several updates, or like requests for updates. Yeah.
I mean, he was here.
Yeah, he was here. He's the one who walked up to you and said, I tried to get.
Yes, I know, today, this morning, or this afternoon, as I was driving here.
To me, LaBarge has done a great job of doing due diligence on these projects and the costs, so that we know that we're looking at real numbers and not, we don't have that luxury with the Metro Cleaners project currently, because they haven't gotten the feedback they need to be able to tell us, yes, this is feasible at this dollar amount. So that's a red flag for me as well.
Okay, fair enough.
We haven't discussed the small project fund, so I just wanted to call that out, because that's a project that is being submitted for $300,000, requesting $300,000. So we should just discuss that, so everyone's on the page, because right now it's on the, as Adriana's filling this out, it's on the priority slate, so we need to, the LPC needs to confirm that they want that to be
Yeah.
on the priority list.
Without a level of detail, that'll come later.
Yes, I mean, we know what the general
Right.
frame of the program is, we know it's a 25% match, we know we have how much of sort of confirmed interest is almost double
significant
that amount,
yeah,
which
it's
is
double
sort of the
that.
standard that HCR wants to see. So it probably, if it was funded, there's a justification to fund it fully at 300,000, on HCR's point of view. But, it's also, funding it comes at the expense of something else. The LPC needs to just confirm that they want to see that as a priority project.
When you quoted us, I was trying to calculate here too, 7.8, it wasn't including the 300,000, was it, for the small
That
project?
includes the
It did.
small.
It did include it,
Yeah.
okay.
I think the small project fund is clearly our priority. I think
It is, yeah.
I think we just wish that we could make it more.
Noted.
Put it on the record. Okay, so what I'm doing as you all are talking is I'm filling out an electronic ballot, which you all will receive in email. And we ask that you sign it and return it to the village. Is it okay if it's returned to the village, or would
If
they?
that makes sense, you can return it directly. If you have the technological capabilities to scan it and email it yourself, please give it directly to Adriana.
Because
If
if
you
you
cannot,
email that thing to you, we
the
could sign these tonight.
Can I volunteer you to locally collect?
Yeah, the village office would receive them.
So is there any reason if we could
You're
print
gonna sign
these,
it and return
print these tonight that we couldn't sign them?
Well, we do have the time to do that. We have
I mean, 'cause
If there's a
15
printer, we
minutes.
can certainly do that.
and just,
Get it done.
so people don't have to mess with the technology, like
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be
print it,
great.
sign it, scan it. you
That was
know.
my original
Yeah.
idea, but I didn't want to put pressure.
Like, I think
on
Cindy's
people
working
to
on-
operate the printer
I
after.
don't have my laptop here, so I can't print, and they're gone over there.
I would certainly prefer
You
it.
can print from your laptop.
I don't like leaving, not that I don't trust you all.
A nice little bow would be great tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know she could log into Mitch's.
Super.
If you send me, are you going to send the completed ballot then to Cindy?
I'm gonna I'll have to do that, or I'll
just
put it
on
on
the flash
my,
drive?
my flash drive
Yeah,
and give it to Cindy once it's complete.
I should have brought my new computer.
I just figured I'd take that technology out.
Totally. And then it's done.
Yeah.
I don't have these long names memorized, I apologize.
You're fine, we got plenty of time.
We got time!
You guys were worried.
I was very worried.
We should have pizza tonight. I know, celebratory pizza.
I was more skeptical when we started, that the whole process wasn't enough time, but here we are. It worked.
And you are only, the folks voting on this will be the folks in attendance tonight for this discussion, correct?
Yes.
Oh, as opposed to the issue.
Unfortunately, we are missing 4 people, but, you know.
I mean, are those the declared rules for people in attendance? Someone participated.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna sign it now, it's gonna be done deal.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're certainly going to follow up with those people and just give them a summary of what happened, but
Alright,
I don't know, one-
Are we ranking or are we just checking?
You're
Checking.
Checking.
and the check boxes are only for recusals, so you don't have to worry,
Oh,
you just
so
need to
only
sign
one
this
person has to
later.
worry about that.
Oh.
and,
Or check if you're recusing yourself from that project.
Okay.
Sorry, there's just simple things that are bothering me about this form, so I'm just
so
fixing it.
I think the only person who has to check the recusal box is Josh, I believe. So
When we're
just don't forget to do that for your project.
Vote on it.
I'll check.
Okay, if you pull up that list and everyone can see it before we.
Okay, so, the list, we are missing the, mayor. Is that okay? Okay. So, the small project fund, rehabilitate 134 Main Street for residential apartments. Renovate 103 Main Street for residential apartments. Develop Willowbrook residential housing. Construct railroad in 2 ends. Residential units. Create a community art space at 53 Pioneer Street. Improve pedestrian conditions on conditions on Pioneer Alley. Redesign and improve pedestrian conditions on Hoffman Lane. Improve wayfinding along Upper Main Street. Improve access and circulation on Fowler Way. Initiate repairs to Doubleday Field. And build sidewalks on Grove Street. Is everyone comfortable with this list as proposed or as provided? Yes. Okay.
We vote individually very quickly, and then you'll sign, just go around the room and say that you do support it, and then you'll sign those. So starting with Josh, yes?
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. What am I
you
saying?
need your vote.
Yes.
You're voting on the slate.
Oh, yes.
The culmination of 5
I
meetings.
thought it was already.
The whole point.
Yes.
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 Beautiful.
It's a good way to do it.
All right.
Beautiful.
Cooperstown ballot voted.
I just want to thank Stefan and Danny, who's not here, and the Burge Group, and everybody for all the support through this process. You guys have been amazing. So appreciate all the work that's gone on behind the scenes to vet these projects and make sure that the council had the information they needed to make good decisions. So thank you.
It was excellent, as I've written before to you guys, there's just no way that our small village and our limited capacity with staff could have carried this off, and it's so wonderful having had your support.
It's been our pleasure.
It has.
It's
been a
great
wonderful
community to work
experience.
with, and yes, it's just been really,
Lucas
really
is the
great.
guy that got things going, you know, he doesn't